everyone, and welcome to episode 12 of The Best You, a coaching podcast. It's Gary here again, and as always, I'd like to just start off by saying thank you very, very much for joining me on this particular episode, and I hope that you're all doing great and investing in whatever work you've committed to getting yourself closer to the best version of you. Now, remember I said on the last pod, I remember I was all kind of upbeat on the last pod and I was mentioning spring is coming and everybody just has a bit of a kind of mental shift and a change in attitude and things are a little bit more upbeat. Let's just forget I ever said that, because ever since I said that, we've had snow upon snow upon snow upon plummeting temperatures and such. I think the big man upstairs was listening to me and said, you know what? I'll just pass this message along to Mother Nature and she will give you a lesson that you will not forget, because that's exactly what happened. If I ever needed reminding that being a weather announcer is not for me, this is it. So absolute lesson learned on this one. Oh my word, it's been quite the few weeks, couple of weeks I guess it has been. Okay, so what you can expect for this episode is we are going to work through the most recent blog that's centred around on determining and deciphering what it is you want from life, from your relationships, from your career and such. And before all of that, I will just give you a wee bit of a brief overview of how things are shaping up on my own personal development journey. And I know that I think this is the point where I say on each of the pods, I'm going to keep this brief, and then I get to the end and I'm like, oh, I think I overdone that part. But it's definitely 100% going to be brief, because my target for these pods, believe it or not, is 30 minutes. And because that's what I like to consume, any more than 30 minutes and you're kind of losing me. So I don't intend to go over the 30 minutes. It's just the content kind of takes a little bit of a life of its own as we're going through, and then I get to a spot where I am just kind of running over. So 30 minutes is the target, please know that, and I will try and do my very, very best to stick to that as we move forward from here. So what have I been up to since the last time that we chatted, or the last time I recorded, I guess I should say? Like before, always continuing with my journey and my core passion, which is my one-on-one coaching. And I honestly, I can't express, folks, quite truly how much I love this, how much it's an honour to be part of people's journey, to be trusted, to be a contributory factor to people's ongoing development work and ultimate successes. And it just doesn't feel like work. It feels like a genuine calling in my life, and I'm so blessed to be able to get to do this regularly. And I did mention over the last couple of pods that I have been journaling, and I mentioned last time that I'd started kind of doing it morning and night. The nighttime stuff is still a little bit hit and miss, but I do not miss a morning. And you know, basically set my intention for the day by essentially answering a series of questions, and you know, just who do I want to be today? What do I want to be doing today? Who do I want to show up for? Why is that important? Those sorts of things, and it's making a big difference, I have to say. So, you know, really enjoying that. And I did finish, and I'm now formally certified in the Core Leadership Dynamic qualification that I took through the Institute for Professional Excellence in Coaching. That's IPEC. That's my coaching training provider that I did my initial CPC, Certified Professional Coach qualification through. And I have to be really honest and say I genuinely believe this is going to be a game changer for me and my leadership clients, specifically my leadership clients. It's not completely, you know, carte blanche or secluded to leadership only, but, you know, certainly tailored to that. It could certainly be applied for other folks that maybe don't have leadership aspirations or ambitions or responsibilities at that given point in time. But anyway, as I say, I believe it's a bit of a game changer. What it's really structured in, there's a whole bunch to it, but essentially it talks about influencers and disciplines. And the influencers are spiritual, mental, emotional, physical, social, and environmental. That's the influencers. And the disciplines are awareness, acceptance, conscious choice, trusting the process, authenticity, fearlessness, confidence, connection, presence in the moment, and 100% energetically engaged. And, essentially in order to excel, actually maybe even survive, but let's say excel, since this is a positive podcast, in order to excel as a leader in today's very dynamic and ever-changing world, you genuinely need to know, understand and appreciate the impact of what influences your life, and within that, what you can and can't control within these influencers, and also in what areas you demonstrate exemplary discipline and skill, and conversely, the areas where you're a little bit weaker and you struggle, and that's what I can now help you work through. And I'm delighted to be in a position to have these skills within my coaching tool belt. And if you want to know any more about that, please do reach out to me via the Book Gary tab on my website, or if you're part of my mailing list, you could just respond to the email that's sent out accompanying this pod, and I would be happy to walk you through it. It won't take a long time to walk you through it to see if it's something that you might be interested in pursuing. Kinda a wee tad annoyed with myself for not completing this when I was on a roll quite some time ago, but I was just so busy. I'm not beating myself up about it, but I'm kind of like, I would really I'd love to have had access to this information, and of course the qualification to be able to serve clients in the past. So very, very much looking forward to using this as we move forward, and hopefully we move forward together. And I did do an immersive weekend as part of my Launchpad Accelerator program through the Mastermind community, and it was called Your Path to Consistent Sales, and the immersive workshop was basically a 2-day workshop which basically took us through the nuances of the sales process. And I've done a couple of classes or a couple of weekly coaching sessions on the sales process, and I have to admit it's not my forte. I've never really had to do any sales over time, but obviously now being an ultrapreneur, as my sister calls it, and doing my own thing in terms of marketing and such, I need to get better at that. And firstly, that the ability to actually just understand what it is, how it goes, what tools and systems and processes are available to me, and then see what makes the most sense, what feels the most authentic and natural for me. And the weekend was fantastic. You got a lot of value, got a lot of tips and tricks and information from it. So one of the main things that really has been driven home for quite some time through this process that I've been working through, and I'm going to be finishing this whole thing. It started September, it finishes in early April, so just about a month or so to go, is don't think about it as sales. And this is not just a play on words. Think about it as service. I mean, the reason I'm doing what I'm doing in terms of trying to expand my coaching business and my self-education offerings is to genuinely serve people who need it. And they say, consider it a service, not sales. And then when you're trying to serve someone, essentially you're just having a conversation, and eventually the conversation will of course transpire into the business part of the conversation to understand exactly what the nuances of that could look like. But that's helped me be a wee bit of a game changer in terms of, I just have this sleazy car salesman kind of image in my mind, and I'm like, oh, that's not me, that's definitely not me. So this has been very valuable, and a very valuable investment of my time to try and do that. So yeah, look out for more stuff as we go forward. In terms of books on the go, same as last time, Coaching for Performance. I'm struggling to get going on this one for some reason, and I need to try and figure out why, because I purchased it for a reason, because I was really interested in finding out a bit more about the GROW model. And I'll get through that hopefully at some point over the next wee while. And my fun book is still the autobiography or memoir by Sir Elton John called Me. And it's very, very entertaining, I have to say. He has a very unique writing style. It's fun. It's fun to listen to. So anyway, on to the actual content for this episode. And I did want to just provide a wee bit of an overview or a supporting summary of the blog What Do You Want, which is blog number 13. You can see that on the website garygillen.com if you haven't read it yet. And essentially how this came about was, I spend a lot of time talking about this specific topic with people. This is something that's prevalent in almost, I struggle to find a time where it's not prevalent within a coaching circumstance or situation that I'm involved in. Ultimately, it ends up with me asking a version of the question, okay, So what do you want? What does good look like from this circumstance? Where do you think we should take this? And without a true understanding of what someone wants from a given circumstance or situation, it becomes a bit more fickle to try and figure out the best path to take the conversation in support of their needs. So I start off by basically just saying, like, have you genuinely, truly ever stopped to consider what you want out of life? Not just right now, not just a moment, or what you want for dinner, or what time you want to go to bed, or when your next workout is going to be, but like the genuine sum that is your life, that is your time on this earth. I think, a micro want determination, in terms of the smaller things, appears to be a little bit easier than establishing the long game, the macro wants for some, and that was one of the main inspirations for spending time on the blog. I also did mention, forgive me for anyone who's very young and doesn't know who the Spice Girls are, just YouTube them and you'll find out. And they have a very famous song, which is the song of their breakthrough, which was called Wannabe, was that what it was called? I can't remember. But anyway, if you listen to the song, actually on the blog I did put a link there. If you highlight or if you put your cursor over the actual words from the Spice Girls song of "Tell Me What You Want, What You Really Really Want," then you'll get a link to the YouTube, the official YouTube video of that. But what they want from the song, and people who know the song will know this, they want you to know and understand that if you want to be one of the Spice Girls lovers, you have to get on and get along with their friends, because friendship never ends. And not only that, you have to give more than you take, because that's just the way that it is as well. You get everything on the Best You, a coaching podcast. Who knew that we were going to go into some cultural music here? But that's what you want. But the song does include that. You need to get along with my friends, and you better give more than you take, or you are out of here. So I like that. I then went on to talk about, dictionary definitions of want, and that was really to feel a need or a desire for something, to wish, need, crave, demand, or desire. Desires showing up in the second descriptor again, and to require or need. So it is a desire or a longing for something that you currently don't have, or you don't have as much of, or as little of, or something like that. You don't possess this, and it could be a tangible physical thing. For example, a new winter jacket to go with the weather, or a feeling, like to feel appreciated, or an emotion, to feel less stressed, or an experience, to go and be able to see someone you really admire, a concert, to listen to the back catalogue of the Best You podcast on a binge cycle. Those are the types and styles of wants that you could have. And you can want all you want, as long as your wants are realistic, they're relevant, they're not evil, nor will they hurt yourself or anyone else. And I'd absolutely recommend keeping them as wants, and who knows, maybe you get to pursue them. Some of them that can just be parked as being lifelong desires that you never really get an opportunity to pursue, but that doesn't mean that you don't want them. And that's really part of the kind of nuance there. And there were some examples provided also of some of the wants that you might have experienced in terms of happiness, whether you would like to have increased happiness in your life or your relationships, to feel less stressed, whether that's related to your life or your workplace or your career choices or such, to be more financially secure, to be less or more responsible, or have more or less responsibility in certain areas of your life. Sometimes you might have bitten off more than you can chew, in your opinion, and you're looking to just dial it back a wee bit, or you're looking for an opportunity to gain more responsibility and test yourself against a higher plane of activities or responsibilities. And you're maybe looking for a chance or an opportunity to prove yourself. You're maybe looking for stuff, some material possessions, some new clothes, a new car, a new desk, a new house, something like that. Career options or opportunities, relationships and love, because as the Beatles say, love is all you need. Any personal growth and development experiences or opportunities, and adventures. And the last one that I mentioned there was, some wants and desires around your health and your well-being. So one of the challenges I then laid out was, consider things in your life that you want today. And I would literally ask you to do that. You can even pause the pod if you need to do that. Consider things that you want from your life today. Do they align with the list that I just had? And if you go to the blog, you'll see it explained in a wee bit more detail. And if so, if they align or they don't align, it's almost immaterial for right now because it's your want. What did you do to try to get closer to that want, need, or desire? Or what are you planning to do to work towards getting that want, need, or desire? If the answer is absolutely nothing, or just kind of thought about it, it's on my list of things to do, or I am genuinely trying to work towards it, that's valuable, rich data that you have, folks, that you'll be able to use that to say, if I have actually done nothing about it, how much of a want is it? And maybe there's buckets. There's the kind of fantasy wants that will just never be pursued by you. There'll be the maybe someday if the stars align wants, and there'll be these are very material to my quality of life for now and the foreseeable future. I'm going to pursue them, and at least you'll have that information to give yourself an opportunity to detail whether it's worth your time thinking about and pursuing or not. So then, how do you know what you want? And I then posed a series of questions actually to kind of give yourself a wee bit of an opportunity to dissect that a wee bit more. And then the questions were, how clear and unambiguous am I about what I want from my life or my relationships or my career or my health? How clear and unambiguous am I about what I want? And the clarity might be present in some of them, but maybe not all of them. And that's okay. You could break it down and maybe answer that question for the 4 or 5 categories that I listed there. Could I easily explain it to someone clearly and in a way that is easy for them to understand? And it's kind of like the old adage, if you can't explain it clearly, you likely don't understand it well enough yourself. Am I fully able to attach my why to my wants? And this is where you have a lot more information at your disposal than you probably think you do. It requires a deeper level of thinking and maybe a bit of support from your network or from a coach. And that's not a plug, of course, but there might be some supports that you need to be able to get yourself to a spot where you can align the whats with the whys to give yourself a better opportunity to have more clarity, basically. And how much time we truly spend articulating what we want. And even when we do spend the time, how methodical or thought out is it? I mean, I offer up in the blog there that for me, it kind of depends. And I don't mean to sound lazy when I say that, but for some of the more serious, desirable wants that I really want to incorporate within my life, I spend a lot more time on them. And for some of the less serious or more incidental wants, it's just kind of how I feel on a given day, whether I feel like going and dining out or dining in or having a beer versus a wine or whatever that looks like. And I think that really just gets you to a spot where you have a bit more, as I mentioned before there, a little bit more clarity. And I did recall a time in the blog, and it's probably a better opportunity to explain it here on the pod, where I was it's actually not too long ago, and I was on a coaching call and I was being coached myself. It was a kind of team coaching call, and then I got an opportunity to work directly with the coach, and the coach was keeping things moving along very quickly. Let's just say that, she was not messing around, so I didn't get a lot of opportunity to actually tell her the context before I explained what I was looking for, a little bit of help and assistance on. But I basically was talking about packaging my offerings, presenting them to the marketplace, and getting to a spot where I'm comfortable with what I'm presenting, with the costs associated with it, with what I'm presenting, with the commitment levels of both myself and my clients and such. And I was kind of like, I'm at a spot right now, I'm not 100% sure if I'm truly going after it, because I had other things on the go. I've got some qualifications and things like that I'm still pursuing. And she just came right in and says, well, it's fear. Maybe it's fear. I think it might be fear. And I says, well, I've actually considered that, because I do a lot of self-coaching on my own person a lot of the time. And I says, I don't know 100% that that's actually true of what it is. And I think it was more, this is new and I haven't done it before, and I kind of think I'm progressing towards it, but maybe it's not quick enough. but then who gets to determine whether it's quick enough? I have genuinely done quite a lot of soul searching in this area to try and figure out if I am absolutely procrastinating on something, and if so, why is that indeed the case? And I come to the conclusion that I'm not. I'm taking everything very methodically and working through the steps that I feel have to be worked through to get myself to a spot where when it's ready, I'm ready, and everything else is ready. Some of that I don't get to dictate. Of course, if an opportunity presented itself, then I would have to take that very seriously, even if I wasn't fully ready, prepared, with everything that I need to be able to serve the client. But then I would be very honest with the client to say that that's exactly what the situation is or was at that given point in time. But it's one of these areas where you get the opportunity to try and say, what is it I want? And if I really wanted that, would I be behaving the way that I'm behaving to get to that spot where I actually have what it is that I've been desiring? So yeah, then we walked on in the blog to talk about, if you're struggling to identify what it is you want, then perhaps start with what it is you don't want. Now, I really genuinely appreciate here that there are different schools of thought on this. Some people think that's nonsense and it's too much of a negative slant on things that doesn't actually move you forward. I would argue that it does move you forward, especially if you are at a dead stop on what it is you're trying to decipher of what you want. And the questions that were posed there were, what is the most obvious thing that I don't want to happen? How do I not want to feel? And reflecting on past experiences, what are some patterns or situations that I can predict are going to be in my future that I absolutely want to avoid? And then what have I learned from the past experiences that can guide me in clarifying what it is I don't want? Ultimately, you're looking to establish a level of understanding of what you don't want to help you start to gain clarity on what you do want. It won't get you all the way there, but it starts to give you an understanding of certain things that you want to avoid, which is great, which is very, very valuable information, but it also starts to help you appreciate your process, your thought process, your articulation process, how things, how you dig in and get things out of your inner self to provide yourself with a bit more information and information to give yourself an opportunity to move forward in a positive way at the same time. So yeah, that's the school of thought that from Gary on in terms of starting with what you don't want. And then I went on to talk about desires. And, desire, you remember from the dictionary explanations earlier, certainly have a part to play in, determining what your wants are. And then I pose more questions there of if you're trying to figure out your desires and how that might connect, think about what things you truly enjoy doing, what activities, what hobbies do you have, like what people do bring you the most joy and fulfillment? And if you can, answer why at that specific moment. If money were no object, genuinely, if money were no object, what would you spend your time doing and why? And then, manifesting that into what are some long-term goals or dreams that you've always had, but that you haven't yet pursued, but there's possibly an intent or a desire, to use the terminology itself, and then why. And then, to be fair, I think the what questions, what do I enjoy doing? Who do I enjoy doing it with? If money were no object, what would I absolutely love to spend my time doing, and what are some of my goals? I think those are a wee bit easier to follow, or easier to answer, I beg your pardon, than the why part, because the why involves a little bit more conscious thinking, a little bit more deeper deeping, and that's not a thing, Gary, come on. And there are different ways that you can do that and get yourself to the why, and I might talk about that at some point in the future. I did very early on in one of my coaching classes, I did an exercise called the 7 layers deep, or the 7 levels deep. I think it was one of those 2, and essentially it was, what do you want? And then you would explain, well, I want, this thing. Okay, and why do you want that? And why do you want that? Why do you want that? And then when you get to the 7th level deep, if you're truly answering these from a genuine, consciously aware position, you have the kind of the foundation of your life. This is genuinely what I want. I did this exercise as I was contemplating starting my business, and it provided me tremendous clarity on what it was. And one of the main things that I wanted from my life was more control over my calendar, to be able to manage both my professional and my personal time appropriately for where I'm at in my life right now. And that was through the 7 levels or layers deep exercise. So something that I might talk about a wee bit in the future. And then talked about limiting beliefs. And limiting beliefs was something that I had learned through my IPEC training. And, it's a generality, a label, or a formed idea that you've learned or accepted about yourself, the world, or the people around you, that in whatever way manifests itself to limiting you. We all have limiting beliefs. And I just ask you to consider, what beliefs do you hold about yourself or others or the situation that you think might be holding you back? And the key is, for every single question you ask, but certainly from a limiting beliefs perspective, is you need to be honest. You need to be very open with yourself. You're answering these questions by yourself, for yourself, so be as honest as you need to be. How true are the beliefs? And if you don't know, I offered up you could do a scaling response to that question, where you could do 1 to 10. How true is it? I actually don't know. It's probably a 1 until I found out more, or it's a 10. It's absolutely a 10. I know that for a fact. What fears or doubts arise when you think about going after what you truly want? And what evidence do you have to support that your fears and doubts are actually, genuine things that could manifest themselves into blocking your path? And then how can you reframe your thoughts and beliefs and supports to support your desires and goals? There's always another way to look at things. This is where coaching definitely comes in, or mentoring, or in some other relationships that you can have, where you can bounce ideas off of people to get you to a spot where you have a bit more clarity, a bit more of an expansive understanding of who you are, why you are, what you want, and what you're going to have to do to get it. And I think there is a linkage here ultimately to your core values. It's all connected. Everything's all connected. If you want to find out a wee bit more about core values, you can go back to blog number 4 or pod number 3, where I talk about that fairly extensively. And then creating your vision. Like, once you've tackled all of the areas that I've just spoken about, that I've discussed today and that are on the blog, and remember, you can check them out from the blog as well, you can move forward with more clarity than you've ever had before. And I want to kind of bring you back to a quote that I had said when, I think it was pod number 9 on, what was that, listening? I can't remember now exactly what one it was, but Og Mandino's book, The World's Greatest Salesman. Since the beginning of time, there never has been another with my mind, my heart, my ears, my hands, my hair, my mouth. None that came before, none that live today, and none that come tomorrow can walk and talk and move and think exactly like me. Henceforth, I will capitalize on this difference, for it is an asset to be promoted to the fullest. I will place my uniqueness on display. I will begin now to accent my differences, hide my similarities. I am not on this earth by chance. I am here for a purpose. Everything that I've talked about today, folks, is all about you. This is where you get absolute shameless self-promotion and the ability to be selfish. And if you can't be selfless if you're not selfish, and that's some learnings that I've been doing recently through Matthew McConaughey. And it's very, very true. You need to take this time for you, and you deserve this time for you. And you have great things that you can accomplish and you can put out into the world at the same time. So, articulate your wants, free of any impediments, and see where it takes you. Honestly, do that, and you might, and I would offer up, you probably will be very, very surprised. And I finish off the blog, of course, with a Coach Gaz challenge. And the next time you're trying to struggle, or you're trying to decide on something and you're struggling to make that decision, reflect on what it is you really want as a desirable outcome. With more practice, you will get better at this, because you will have information, you will have triggers, you will have keys, you will have experience to be able to start to figure out, to say, no, that's not what I want. What I want is this, and the decision becomes a lot more clear. And, obviously figure out how you can determine that for you. So I don't have a book report for this time, because I have been busy creating my own course, which I'll talk about some other time in greater depth, but it's essentially to help you identify, understand and reduce or eliminate your blockers in your life. And as I say, I'll talk about that. Maybe talk about that next time, actually, because I don't think I'll have a book report to do for next time either. So, okay, that will do it for this episode of The Best You, a coaching podcast. And I hope it's been a valuable use of your time, my friends, and that you will join me for more as we move forward. If you did find it valuable, please do share it with others as we look to try and continue to build a community of folks from around the globe get to be a better version of themselves. And I would challenge you to share it. Please do that. You know, I spend a lot of time on this. I carefully curate the content to make sure that it's appropriate, and I deliver it as best as I possibly can. I would love it if you could do something in return and maybe share it with one more person, and then we can see where we take it from there. Don't forget to check out my website, GaryGillan.com, for more information and the back catalogue of the pods and the blogs. And until next time, I'm just a wee bit over the 30 minutes this time, but I'm getting better. Progress, not perfection, is what they say, isn't it? But until next time, please do take care of yourself, and all the very, very best to you in your ongoing journey. I'll talk to you soon. Okie dokie. Cheerio for now.